So, morning, Kate. Thank you for joining me today. It's great to see you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks, George. How are you getting on?
Not bad. I'm not bad. Busy, but not bad.
Good.
So, yeah, the ODI series is all wrapped up now. How did that go for you?
Yeah, so we won the series last night. We still got one game left on Sunday down in Canterbury. But it's been really good actually. I think it's been interesting going back to international cricket after we played in the 100 because there was obviously so much glitz and glamour around that tournament earlier on. So yeah, it's been interesting to come back into international cricket, but obviously it's always a privilege to be able to play for England and represent your country. So yeah, it's been good. It's been a full on summer, but I've loved it. I've absolutely had a blast this year.
Yeah, obviously it's been a bit weird over the past year with COVID and whatnot. And how have you managed in like the sort of COVID bubbles? Like, have they changed as well since when it was during the height of the pandemic to now?
Yeah, so our COVID bubbles last year were really strict. So much so we were like camped in Derbyshire at the cricket ground because there was a hotel attached to the cricket ground, which I found really difficult actually because your whole life was centered around cricket for 4 weeks, which um, probably is a little bit unnatural. I know a lot of the pandemic has been unnatural, but this year the COVID bubbles have been a lot more relaxed. So we're moving hotels, moving grounds, being able to travel around the country a little bit, and you're able to kind of see loved ones at social, if you're socially distant. So there's been a bit of respite, but it has been really difficult. And I think it goes back to that kind of unnaturalness of how we're living. And it feels like the whole country has opened back up, but because we need to protect cricket and make sure COVID doesn't get into our environment, and we've had to be quite strict still. So it's actually been a real challenge because you feel like you should be able to go out and go to the pubs and go to restaurants, but we're just not able to. So we've got a little bit of time off coming up, which will be nice because we'll just have a bit of normality back, which I think everyone's ready and looking forward to.
And what have you been getting up to in the bubble? Like, I know some of the England boys, the men's team have been playing like Call of Duty and stuff in the bubble. Like, what have you been up to?
Yeah, it's progressed, I think, over the summer. So I think Sophie Eccleston bought her PlayStation with her on the first trip, and then I've not seen that since. So I don't know why she's not doing that. But we have a team room everywhere that we go. And I think there's a tennis table that comes with us. But then there's like the exercise bikes and the dumbbells and all the weights equipment that come with us as well. So that team room can sometimes be fun, but sometimes not. Um, but it's just a lot of going out for walks. We're allowed to go to some takeaway coffee places and get a coffee. So it feels very lockdown 1.0, when we just got out last year. But a lot of Netflix, really. I'm not going to lie. You're in your room a lot. So yeah, a lot of TV, a lot of Netflix.
Anything in particular you'd recommend off your Netflix?
I've just finished Sex Education, and it's one of the best series I've ever watched. So definitely get yourself watching that.
Cool. Actually, I think I watched halfway through season one, but didn't finish it. I don't know why.
No,
I thought it was all right, but
you need to finish it. It's really good.
yeah, I'll get onto that. So obviously, like we were saying before about the series, how like has the bubble kind of affected your game going into matches, or has there been an impact?
Um, it's probably not affected my performances, but I think it's certainly made me appreciate what touring life was like before COVID, because you kind of just took for granted that you traveled around and you're able to go out and go and see things. And I guess less so when we're in England because it's probably not as exciting as when you get to go abroad and travel. Just because you're so used to living in England anyway. But yeah, I think it's definitely made me appreciate how important getting away from cricket is, because when you're in these environments, you're obviously with your team so much and you rely on your team because they're safe, because we've all been COVID tested. So, you're allowed within 2 meters of them. But I think for me, not being able to see my family as much as I would have liked this summer has been quite tiring. They're a real big part of my life and I rely on them quite a lot for understanding my cricket, understanding where I'm at with cricket, but also they know how to get me away from cricket as well. So, I've got two young nieces who don't understand what a good performance looks like, and I've not really been able to see them this summer. And they obviously would take my mind off cricket quite a lot. So, yeah, I wouldn't say that the bubbles impacted me negatively in terms of performance wise, but I think it's just made me aware of probably how much I took for granted before them, which maybe the pandemic did for a lot of people.
And yeah, I can imagine it'd be pretty hard, to be fair. I mean, I can't relate, but I can imagine it'd be pretty hard. I'd quite like to play cricket 24/7, to be fair, but
I reckon after a day of it, you'd be like, nah.
yeah. Well, to be fair, I used to do like full days. Like when I played club level, I used to coach the under 11s, under 13s, then train under 15s.
So
And
that
I
was
love
full.
that. I think it was about 8 hours or something. It was good
Wow.
though. So yeah, obviously talked about England, but there was the hundreds. Well, that the hundred, but you've been playing all over the place, haven't you? But the hundred was the big thing. How did you find that new experience, new competition?
It was honestly one of the best things I've ever experienced. Like I can't not smile when I think about it because it was just such an incredible 4 weeks. And we actually didn't do that well at cricket, but the whole kind of parity that we had with the men's teams and the fact we were playing at test grounds and, you know, then able to play on better pitches so that our cricket was automatically a better standard because we were, you know, given better facilities. It was just incredible. And playing in front of crowds like that, I've never played internationally in front of crowds like that. So to be able to do that at domestic level was, I think it kind of took me by surprise. I didn't really have an expectation going into it because it was all so new and I just didn't know what to expect in any regard with the format, with the crowds, with the affiliations to the teams. And it just completely blew me away how good it was and how much people bought into it, which I think was the big thing. I think if we'd not had the crowds, it would have felt like another game of cricket. But for whatever reason, it just felt a little bit different. And we obviously got the privilege of kicking the tournament off down at the Oval in that first night back in July. And yeah, we lost that game and I came off the pitch and I was grinning. And I thought, hang on a minute, if I'm captain of a team and we've lost and I'm smiling, that doesn't look great. But it just felt like something bigger than cricket had happened for women's cricket that night. It felt like, you know, people might now start taking us a bit more seriously. And I've had a lot of that on social media, actually. A lot of people have said that they knew nothing about the women's game, but the 100 made them really buy into it. And that's only a massive positive for us as players because you don't do all this training and hard work and, you know, all the stuff that people don't see behind closed doors to go and play in front of 20 odd 30 people, whatever it might be. So to be able to play in front of 5,000-6,000 people regularly was just absolutely incredible.
I was going to say as well, like, how do you think the 100 is helping grow like the women's side of cricket?
It's just visibility. That's always been the thing with women's sport in general. I think not just specifically cricket, but I think if you, you know, when I was a kid, I didn't see any women on TV playing sport other than in the Olympics or maybe Wimbledon. And that was, you know, me having to go and find that because I'm interested in sport. Whereas now I feel like the 100 in particular, there was a game on telly every single day. And there was a handful of games on the BBC on free-to-air television. So people could turn their TVs on and see women playing cricket, which I think for younger girls and the younger generations is so powerful. And that was kind of the messaging that I got a lot through the 100, that, you know, people had young boys who are interested in cricket because they play it at school and it's quite easy for them to get into. But for girls, it's probably a little bit harder. And the fact that they then had role models on TV or they could go to Old Trafford and watch girls play, it was quite powerful for them to, you know, get them into cricket. So I think that's been the biggest thing with the 100 is the visibility around it and kind of how they marketed the players. And you could tell they put a lot of money into that. And I think that's where they reap the rewards because, like I said, we were just on show for 4 weeks of the summer when all the kids were off school as well. So I thought it was planned really well.
And do you think it's just kind of the start of something much bigger, or do you feel as if it could be like, you know, a bit of a one-off, like the 100 hype, if you like? Do you think it'll sustain itself, basically?
Yeah, we kind of talked about that as players because we couldn't believe how many people were there on that first night to watch a standalone women's match. And, you know, there was a bit of cynicism, I guess, around people have been locked up for 12 months and now they can go and watch live sport. I wonder if that's an element of it. But the thing that I think was different about it that I've not seen in this country with cricket is the fact that it was a city-based team. And I think people like being affiliated and like supporting their cities. So the fact that we were Manchester rather than Lancashire, which is where I've, nothing changed in terms of where I played my cricket, or, the fact that we were at Old Trafford, but it was the fact that I was playing for Manchester and not Lancashire. So I think that will be something that is sustainable. And I hope it only gets bigger from here, especially the women's game. I heard a lot of the punditry on Sky and on the BBC saying that almost by mistake, the women's game has come out of this so well because we weren't meant to play double headers with the men. That was because of COVID, that they needed to keep things quite tight with the bubbles. We were meant to be playing at Liverpool and Blackpool and places like that. So I think by mistake, the ECB stumbled across a formula that worked. And so I think that'll keep going next year as well. I think we'll keep that double header system. Well, I hope we will, because I thought it worked really well. And that also meant that we could support our men's team as well quite easily because we were at the same ground as them. So I hope it's not just 100 hype. I'm sure there was an element of, I think, interest early on because people were intrigued to see how the new format would look and how it would play. But I think once people realised that it was a game of cricket, it kind of, that got put aside, and then everyone jumped on to supporting their teams.
And one sort of criticism I would have personally, so I was born in Gloucester, Cheltenham, and I grew up in Newcastle. And as a cricket fan, well, obviously I live in Manchester, which is fine, but obviously I'm trying to affiliate myself with a team. The nearest team in Newcastle is Northern Superchargers, and the nearest team to Gloucester/Cheltenham is Welsh Fire. So do you think there should be more sort of room for expansion in terms of teams to get more access to people in, say, Newcastle, or people in Bristol, Gloucester, etc.?
Yeah, I think that is a challenge. And that was something kind of like the feedback that I saw on social media. A lot of people were saying that their local team isn't local. But I think you can't please everyone with a tournament like that. And I think, if you're then thinking about people up in Durham, you then have to think about every single person in the country, which is just so difficult to do. But I don't see why they can't expand the tournament. Personally, from a playing point of view, I thought it was the right amount of time. I thought if it went on any longer than that, I think it would have maybe lost a bit of momentum. I don't know, obviously, from a fan's point of view, how other people felt, but there is the risk if you put more teams in that there's obviously more fixtures, and trying to fit all those into a shorter period of time could prove difficult. But yeah, I fully get that point. And I think I've, again, probably taken for granted the fact that I'm from Manchester. I've grown up there and I've got a team on my doorstep. And for people who don't have that, then I guess, I'm one of the lucky ones. But I still think that people bought into the tournament regardless of whether they had teams or not.
One thing I was going to say, you kind of touched on there, is my kind of bugbear with cricket, to be honest, and rugby, is the amount of sort of games that cricketers and I suppose rugby players will play for different teams. So obviously you've been playing for Manchester Originals, Thunder, and England. How do you find like balancing all the different teams? I mean, I assume you play with a lot of the same people, because I know some of the girls play for Lancs and then go to England, etc. But how do you find that?
Yeah, that's something quite new for us as female cricketers, purely because we've just not had the access, or we've not had the fixtures to be able to play in all those tournaments because they've not been there. So I think we're in a really exciting phase of the game where we want to be doing that, and we want to be playing cricket as much as we can. That's always kind of been something that I've advocated for as a professional cricketer, is that I've found that I train more than I play. And the ratio of that just doesn't make any sense to me. So the fact that now we've got a regional setup where I can go and play my cricket when I'm away from England, we've then got the 100, which, was that jam-packed, like I said, glitz and glamour tournament that was, I think, like my adrenaline was through the roof every single game that I played in that tournament. And then I can come and play international cricket as well when selected. So I think for me personally, it's a massive positive. I think for the men, it's probably more extreme because, like seeing Johnny Bairstow playing for the Welsh Fire when he's a Yorkshire lad born and bred, that I know he got a lot of stick for that, but I think people didn't understand that was out of his control. And that's where the draft came in and people were bought based on their abilities. And we've not really had much of that in English sport ever, I don't think. You generally either transferred to teams, but you're not often bought in a franchise. So I think I actually found that part really interesting and how people got on board with it, and some people found it quite negative. But um, it'll be interesting to see how they then move forward with that, because you could lose affiliations to players quite quickly. So, Johnny Bairstow could end up playing for Manchester Originals next year if we buy him. So, I think that could be something that's quite difficult. But personally, I think it's brilliant for our game that we've just got so much cricket in the calendar now.
Yeah. Well, and you spoke to, like, we're talking about the 100 franchise and all this kind of stuff. There's another tournament back on at the minute, the IPL. I know you're a bit of an Chennai Super Kings fan, aren't you?
Yeah.
They played on, was it Sunday, wasn't it?
They started the second part of the tournament off again, didn't they? So then they did well. Yeah.
Are you an avid watcher when you can, or?
Yeah, I'm just a massive cricket badger. Cricket was always my favourite sport growing up, and it was always on the telly at home. And the IPL, I think, is what I loved about the 100 was the fact there was cricket every day, and the IPL produces that as well. There's a match every single day. It's been a bit difficult with this series that I'm playing in because we've been so busy. But CSK are playing RCB today, and that is the big rival. So I'm really hoping that CSK win today.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I've seen you say this somewhere before, but you would love to play in a women's IPL, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. I think that's what the women's game's crying out for now. We've seen the Big Bash in Australia, the 100, or the Kia Super League that we had prior to the 100 here in the UK. And the IPL is the big one. That's, the one that everyone wants to play in the men's competition. Because it attracts so many people, and India it's just an incredible country where cricket is almost religion over there. So when we get to tour there, it is phenomenal. Like the love that people have for cricketers is crazy. So to be able to play in a women's IPL, I think would really drive the game forward, because not only would the BCCI be investing a lot of money into the women's game, and helping the Indian side improve and be able to commit to cricket more because of the financial situation, but it's also going to give the likes of some of players like me maybe the opportunity to go and learn how to bowl better over in Indian conditions as well. So I think it'd be a massive positive for the game, and that they're thinking about it. There's been a few women's, like they described them as almost like showcase matches where there's 3 teams and they play against each other and then play a final, but it's so short that it's quite hard to gain any momentum from it. I think an IPL for the women would be a massive step forward for our game.
And do you think the 100 could help propel those potential plans?
I'd hope so, because the female Indian cricketers are allowed to play around the world in different competitions, whereas I think there's a rule that the men's Indian players aren't allowed to play in anything other than the IPL. So I think the fact that you've got some of the best female players from India going, showcasing their skill. Like we have Harmanpreet Kaur playing at Manchester, and technically she's one of the best players that I've seen. And when she gets going, she's one of the best to watch. So I think the fact that those girls are then, showing people what they can do, I think is only going to, hopefully improve the standard of the game, but also, allow other people to go and improve themselves as well. So I think it's a bit of a catch-22, but yeah, I think, like I said, it'd just only be a positive thing for the game.
Yeah. And moving on a little bit from cricket on the pitch and moving on to a big lockdown success for yourself and a friend of yours, the No Balls podcast. How's that been? Because that's kind of just blown up, hasn't it, over the past few months?
Absolutely. Yeah. It really has. It's an interesting one because me and Al we got told one day on Twitter, a few people said, like, you two should do a podcast. We think it'd be quite good. And we thought, no, we'd be rubbish at something like that because we're not tech savvy. We don't, I didn't listen to podcasts back then. Anyway, we started it and it kind of was all right and gave us the opportunity to almost have like a counselling session every week, because it's just two mates having a chat, really. It's not really about cricket. And then lockdown helped so much because it made us actually focus on it, and we started being more consistent with when we put our episodes out. And honestly, there've been so many times where we've gone, you know what, this is too hard. There's too much time that goes into it, because we had to record it, edit it, And the editing bit was hard because we weren't tech savvy, like I said. So it took us like 4 to 6 hours to edit a podcast sometimes, which, full days worth of working. So we nearly jacked it in so many times. And then every time we thought about doing it, we'd both say like, no, we really enjoy it. We actually really love doing this. So let's carry on. And then obviously the BBC picked it up this year, which was just crazy, really, to think that two mates just sat in a living room having a chat, people would want to listen to that on BBC Sounds. Was like, yeah, it was it was really special for me and Al, because we'd worked quite hard on it for 2 years. But now it's obviously so easy because we just record with a guest and then send it off to our producer and he edits it, and that's kind of it now. So we've got the best of both worlds, but it is just so much fun. We love doing it. And we've had loads of feedback, which has kind of said that we've helped people in a really difficult time, which is something that I'm quite passionate about. I've never been quiet about the fact that I've struggled with my mental health over the last couple of years. So being able to talk about that regularly, I think, has helped me as well, because it's helped other people.
And what were the goals going in? Was it just kind of, I'll just take advantage of these recommendations and just do it? Or was there kind of a goal in mind where you thought, maybe grow awareness of women's game or mental health or anything like that? Was there any big thought?
No, there wasn't really, which I think makes it probably even more rogue that we did it, because we just thought, we'll just give it a go. But then I think once we'd recorded a few episodes and we got a bit of feedback, and we set an email address up where people could get in touch with us, and we didn't actually get on social media for probably a year or so, which was a bit daft from us, really. But the stuff that we were hearing on emails was around that mental health side of it, and how, because we were so open about having bad days or good days, or going through patches where you were struggling, I think we quickly realized that the main goal of it was to just be ourselves. And not many people, or I didn't know of any female podcasts at the time, female athletes talking about what life is like as a professional. So I think that probably helped us, because there was a gap in the market for that. But then the main thing that we've said all the way through it is just be ourselves and let people know what it's genuinely like to be a professional, because everyone sees on TV when it's great when you're getting runs and taking wickets, but no one sees the really hard days and the hard gym sessions. And I think that's something that I've been quite, I guess, open about on social media as well, is that it's not just there's just a lot more to it than people see, and I wanted people to be aware of that. So I think obviously the podcast helps, because we can just be quite honest and open about what life's like when we're talking to each other.
Yeah, well, I went down Ben Foster, the goalkeeper, went down a rabbit hole on YouTube of his videos, and he's always talking about stuff behind the scenes, and I find that stuff really interesting, whether it's yourselves, him, or when you see all these documentaries as well behind the scenes, like Drive to Survive or All or Nothing, like it is great. But obviously you're getting more media experience now, aren't you? You're doing the podcast, but you've also been doing a bit of punditry. So I was gonna ask you, when, I assume you will retire at some point, you're not just going to keep going forever. When you retire, would you rather be a pundit or a coach, if you had to pick between one or the other?
I think a pundit, because it's easy to talk about cricket, because I'm such a cricket badger. I watch so much of it. I feel like I know the game quite well, or I've got a good enough gift that I can chat and convince people that I know it well enough. I used to do a bit of coaching, actually, but I don't think I'm patient enough to be a coach. I think I'd probably get too frustrated with, well, I could do it that way, or I couldn't do it that way. So why can you or can't you do it that way? So I think I'd struggle with that. So I think punditry would be a bit easier.
And how have you found the punditry when you've done it? Because you've done a few gigs, haven't you, recently? How's that been?
Yeah, I've loved it. It's obviously another challenge, because like I said, you're having to talk about cricket. But the thing that I loved about doing some of the commentary in the 100 was I was able to think about the game without playing it. So it almost gave me, it was like homework. I was able to watch other captains and see how they captain their teams, and how they went about playing this new format of cricket. And that, I think, then allowed me to, I guess, think about my game and think about how the Manchester Originals played in a different way. So I found that really helpful. But I really enjoy it, and I think you get to meet so many incredible people. And the 100 again was massive for that because they had some big names doing commentary. And there was one point where I was commentating with Kevin Peterson and Andrew Flintoff, and I had like a bit of a fangirl moment because I remember the 2005 Ashes was when I properly fell in love with the game. You know, I snuck into Old Trafford on that 5th day of the Test match, and those two were my heroes. You know, I loved watching Kevin Peterson play, and Andrew Flintoff being a Lancastrian, I'd grown up watching him at Lancashire. So I just had this moment where I was like, oh, wow, I'm actually working with these two people now. And it's quite special. And so I think that was what made it even more enjoyable, was getting to work with people like that. So yeah, it was brilliant. Like I said, it made me think about the game from a punditry point of view. And then I think that helps you then when you play again, because you think, right, well, what would people be saying on commentary right now? But, you know, take your captain's hat off and I think maybe take yourself out of the picture and like try and see the game from like a bird's eye view and see what you're missing. So I think it's helped me in that regard. But yeah, it was just loads of fun.
I was going to ask you this question later on, but it's quite kind of relevant now. But who would you say is your favourite cricket pundit on telly at the minute? Well, and radio. We'll do telly and radio.
I mean, I think the best in the business at the minute is Nasser Hussain. And everyone said that to me when I was working at Sky. They all said to me, watch him like a hawk, you know, listen to how he talks and watch what he does. So I must have looked quite weird actually in the commentary box because I was just staring at him all the time. But I think Mel Jones is one of the best females that we've got. I think she's absolutely brilliant. And her knowledge of the game is great. And I think you can see the people that do their homework, especially on the women's game. Fred was just fun. Like everything was 100 mile an hour with him, but it was just energy and fun, which I think the 100 needed because that's what the tournament was about. I realize I've given you like 3 names here. Nasser's the best. BBC, I've got to say Hartley because obviously she's my best mate.
Got it. Yeah,
I've got to. Yeah, whether she'll listen to this or not, I don't know. But obviously I don't hear a lot of her because she commentates on our games. But from what I've heard and the feedback I've seen, she is very good at what she does. So I'll say her as well.
Did you hear a little blip on 5 Live the other day?
The one about the crowd clapper.
Yeah,
the cloud clapper or something. Yeah,
that was quite an interesting little blooper.
Yeah, she's a funny one.
Yeah. So I mean, I did say beforehand we're going to do a few normal questions, a few quick fire questions. The last of the normal questions is that there's a big birthday coming up, I've heard, I think. Have you got any plans for your 21st, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my 21st.
Birthday, yeah.
Do you know what? I actually can't believe I'm turning 30. I don't feel anywhere near 30. And I don't know whether that's a bit of the pandemic, you know, it's like taken 2 of my best years away from me. But yeah, I've got a nice weekend planned next weekend. So we come out of the COVID bubble with cricket, which is really helpful. I wasn't sure if we'd be able to because we had the trip to Pakistan planned. So I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to celebrate. But yeah, I'm just going to see my family, see my friends, and probably drink some alcohol.
Nice. Very good. So I'm going to go into the fun questions now.
Okay.
Questions. You know what I mean? Random questions, that's what we'll call them. So first one, which has been your favourite international away day? Now, obviously there's the international one, but there's also the county one. So I want you to give me 2 answers there. So favourite, I suppose, country, then favourite county.
Okay. Country would be New Zealand, just because you can't go anywhere and it's not stunning. It's the most incredible place that I've ever travelled to. And county, I love going to Yorkshire because we always do well over there. We always seem to enjoy playing at Headingley and beat them. So just because it's the old enemy and we generally do well there, I've got to say Yorkshire.
Fine. And so in terms of games, do you have a favourite pre-match song that you listen to?
Not really, no. We always have a playlist. So everyone kind of throws some tunes on a playlist. So you get a bit of like this big eclectic mix of all the personalities in the dressing room putting their songs on one playlist. So anything that's upbeat, really. I've listened to a lot of Dua Lipa this summer, actually. I've enjoyed listening to her. But yeah, literally anything that's on the playlist, I'll just listen to.
And who's got the worst music taste in the England dressing room, we'll say?
Sophie Eccleston. She's like Justin Bieber and
I
Bars and
like that.
Melody.
Justin Bieber's not bad.
He's all right. Some of his songs are all right, but when you've got all his music on one playlist, it's a bit much.
Yeah. Any of the new stuff, or is it all old JB? Or
she listens to all of it, so we get literally a JB song every 5 minutes.
Nice. And who's got the best music taste, would you say?
Nat Siver's always got a good tune. She listens to music that's like not your mainstream radio listen, so she'll always like bring a banger that's no one's ever heard of and no one heard of the band. So yeah, she's got good music taste.
And it's kind of along the same lines, but do you have like a song after you win? Like I know Liverpool play All of the Lights by Kanye West after they win a game. So I don't know.
So we've got a team song, and this, you know what, that actually varies. The song that's like the most popular song maybe in the charts at the time generally gets played after the game. So It's Friday then was like a massive one in New Zealand because that seemed to be the song that everyone was listening to. But we have an actual team song that we sing, and it's to Just Can't Get Enough. I don't know who sings that song, but that's quite fun because we like get up and dance and have a bit of like sing. We put our own lyrics onto it, so we sing that after we win every game.
And obviously, when you're playing county cricket, I'm not sure about the 100 whether you got the same treatment, but you go around quite a lot. And I don't know whether you've thought about this, but which county ground has the best food, in your opinion?
Weirdly, we've been talking about that on this trip. So we played at Leicester on Tuesday, and they genuinely have the best food. It is so good. Obviously, Lord's is an obvious one because the Lord's lunch is like famous, but it's also like going out for like a 5-star meal, but then you've got to go and play sport, so it doesn't quite work. It is really good, don't get me wrong. But Leicester, yeah, honestly, they had like this braised beef, and they brought out these sweet potato chips the other night, and it was just, it was so good.
Nice, very nice. I've asked that question already. Right, here's a question for you. So here's a question for you, like we're not doing a bloody interview. So if you could play with any cricketer, past or present, who would it be and why?
The male or female?
Both. You pick one from both category.
Right. Female, I'd want to play with Enid Bakewell because she is like this superhero woman who played cricket for England. She's like 80 odd now. She still plays club cricket. She is unbelievable. But she's one of those people that you could probably sit down with for hours on end and just talk to her about cricket and women's cricket and what it was like back then and how much it's changed. And obviously without being too soppy, like without women like that pioneering, back then in the 80s and 90s, we wouldn't be where we are today. So I think, there's so much that we've got to be grateful for with women like that. I think I read somewhere that when she went on her first England tour, she had to buy her own blazer, her own England blazer. And I just think, we're so privileged now that we get so much, we're so catered for. So I think she'd be wicked to play cricket with. And she was good from what I've heard. In the men's game, I think Michael Holding. I think just because he was obviously such a successful bowler and everyone loved that generation of West Indian fast playing. So, and he's also a brilliant commentator. So I think Michael Holding in the men's game.
Yeah. Next question. It's kind of not really linked. It's kind of linked. Have you ever been starstruck in your life? And if so, who have you been most starstruck by?
Yeah. And it was with Andrew Flintoff. So not this summer. I mean, I was a bit fangirly when I saw him in the commentary box, but there was an incident when I first got onto the Lancashire Academy. So I would have been 15 and we trained on a Monday night and I was still at school. So it was like a big rush to get over to training at Old Trafford for 6 o'clock, especially with rush hour around Manchester. It was a nightmare. And I got there, I was a bit late and I was flustered. I was trying to put my spikes on and get warmed up. And our coach was really good. He was like, just relax. When you stress like this, you're probably going to pick up an injury because you're running around like a headless chicken. So I just remember I was tying my shoelace and someone walked past me. They'd just come out of the nets and like walked past me. And they said, "Hi, Kate, you all right?" And I looked up and it was Andrew Flintoff. And I couldn't get my head around the fact that he knew my name. And this moment has like stayed with me. And Then I was even more flustered. And our coach, John, was like, what's wrong with you? I said, Andrew Flintoff's just said hi to me. And he's like, oh, get a grip, Crossy. He's like, come on, sort yourself out. I was like, no, John, he's like my childhood hero. He's why I'm playing cricket. But yeah, I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that he knew who I was. And it was such a tiny, probably insignificant moment for him. But it obviously meant so much to me. So yeah, that was proper fangirling, and I was very starstruck.
Along the same lines, is there anyone outside of cricketer you've met which you've just been like, can't believe I've just met them or seen them, just bumped into them in public?
Yeah, I've got two actually. So a long time ago, we went to the West Indies to watch England play as a family, and we were coming back. We'd flown with Virgin, and Richard Branson was on our plane.
Oh, really?
And I was quite young, so I probably didn't appreciate, how big a name he is. But I went and got his autograph, and it was back when you got the, the little packets with Virgin Atlantic, and it had a pen in it. So I asked him for his autograph, and the pen didn't work, and he would made a funny joke about the fact that he needs to invest in his pens. Mm-hmm. So that was one. And then this year, I had another starstruck moment. I love Gogglebox. I'm a massive Gogglebox fan. And I met Tom and Julie from the Mancunians that are on Gogglebox. They were out when I was out the other week. And I was like, I'm so sorry to be this person, but I'm going to have to ask you for a photo. And they were brilliant. They were really great. But yeah, I got to meet them as well.
Cool. Cool. The next question is not linked at all. What's your favorite film?
Oh, that's an impossible question, because
top 5 maybe.
Surely, you'll appreciate this. When you're in a happy mood, you want a happy film. When you're in a sad mood, you want a sad film. So there's loads of different films. One of the best that I've ever seen is Forrest Gump. I think that's a really clever film. It's so long, but it's very clever. But to be honest, I like films. I like watching movies. I think the Batman trilogy with Bale is probably my favorite go-to. If I'm hungover, if I'm sad, I probably could watch that all the time.
Solid choice.
Yeah, but that's a hard question.
Sorry. What's your favorite TV show?
Friends. I can answer that.
Oh, really? Friends.
Yeah, I'm an avid Friends fan. That'd be my topic on Mastermind.
What was Friends?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Have you been asked to go on Mastermind at all?
No. I think I'd be too nervous, because the general knowledge would really stitch me up. I think I'd be all right in my topic, but yeah, general knowledge not good.
Do you tune into a quiz night on a Monday?
I do like a quiz night, Yeah. I do. I like quiz shows as well. I like watching The Chase and things like that. So bit of a nerd.
Very good. Last question. Do you have any hidden talents?
Probably not. I can't sing. I can't dance. I can do a Rubik's Cube. I got taught how to do that when we were over in New Zealand this year by one of the girls. Is that a talent? I don't know. It's more just learning a formula, isn't it? And then doing it.
To be fair.
Once you know what you're doing, it's easy to do, obviously, because you know what you're doing. But no, I probably don't have any hidden talent, or nothing that I've found yet. Maybe once I turn 30, I'll find something, and it might be my next career. I don't know, but
not knitting or something like that.
No. My mum tried to get me to knit in lockdown. She's like, I'm going to teach you. I was like, Mum, honestly, it's 2020. We do not need to knit anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably not. Just maybe podcasting. It's not hidden talent, really, is it? Because everyone kind of knows.
Everyone knows now, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, boring answer, but I probably don't.
Fine. And then on that note, I think we'll wrap it
Leave
up.
it there.
Yeah. Thank you, Kate, and good luck for the final game in the series. And yeah, enjoy your break.
Thank you so much.